Welcome back to SketchUp with Starbase. Skywalker here.
So right next to this, though, we're going to create another chair, almost identical, but this time it's going to be using the subtractive method. So we're going to use the same basic dimensions that we started with, but this time we're going to be carving away and leaving the chair behind that we're looking for to be our finished product. So same sort of thing, though. I'm going to start on my red axis here, and I'm going to draw just a square. Actually, it doesn't really matter where you draw it. So this square, remember, you can see our dimensions in the lower corner. We're going to make it the same as our original.
50, comma, 50, and enter.
And you can see this is actually aligned to our red axis. So this chair is going to be a little higher up than the first one. Now the difference with the subtractive method is we're going to use the push-pull again, but this time instead of just pulling it up to represent the thickness of the seat that we want, we're going to pull it up to represent the entire height of the chair. So for us, that means adding the dimensions that we used previously of 50 for the legs and approximately 50 for the back of the chair. So we're going to use 100 centimeters as our guide for this. So start to pull your object up, hit 100 and enter. You should see it appear in the lower right. And that's going to be our block that we're going to use to carve our subtractive method chair. So again, for this one, we're not going to be super accurate. We want you to get comfortable with the tools. Remember, if you make a mistake, Control Z will back you up one or multiple steps if you need to just back up a little bit. So what we're going to do now is, to save time, we're going to use the rectangle tool. And for this, you've got to think three-dimensionally. So we're going to start to draw at the corner. We're going to stretch this out. Make sure that it is on the surface. And we can kind of see that based on, it'll confirm on face, which lets us know that we're in the correct location. And then we just want to draw a square that's going to give us a good back. And then you'll see we'll actually do something special here to create the seat in a moment. But we're in essence drawing the space that we're going to cut away. So I'm going to click there once, jump back over to our tools and grab the push-pull. And now push-pull that shape that we just created away. And when we do that, it kind of reveals the back and roughly the seat of the chair. Next, we need, we're going to need two more rectangles. One is going to represent the void that is going to create our legs here on the bottom. So remember, in this case, another cool trick that's built in is if you hover to a point and then back away, it gives us an inference line. So it shows us this dotted line to show us that we're lined up or aligned in the right direction. So click once, and now we have this space here. Now it's important to understand when you're pushing and pulling that in order to eliminate something like this, because we want to cut this away, we're going to touch and hold, start to push, and then we're going to infer or point at the back edge that we're going to be cutting through. In this case, you can see it kind of lights up to either a red on edge point or even a midpoint of that blue dot. Once we release that and we rotate, you'll see that we've actually cut the entire amount of material away from the underside of the chair. So all that's left now is to just create a few more quick rectangles and cut those away to reveal our front and back legs. So the nice thing about inferring is you can even infer around a corner here. And the goal is to try to get everything to line up so that we might end up with some equidistant legs or some legs that are roughly the same size. And don't worry if it's not perfect, you can always adjust it later. So I'm going to click once here. We're going to use our same trick with the push-pull. Push in and then infer or point at the back edge of this leg here that's going to allow that shape to be cut through. And then finally, to get our last legs in place, we're going to grab that rectangle tool again. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect, but you can roughly infer from one point to another. And in this way, we're going to kind of draw this new shape. Now, it's important to make sure that it's drawn in the correct orientation. For our purpose, that means it's going to be on face on this surface underneath the seat. And you can see that what's happened is I made a mistake. It didn't work. And that's because our guide in place here from our previous model caused this to snap over. So again, not a big deal. Just click on Control Z to undo. And in this case, I want to make sure that I'm actually on edge on the bottom of this shape that we want to draw on. Ooh. And I don't know if you saw that, but now the tool has changed over here to defaulting to draw from the center. So we're going to hit escape, and you can do that at any time. Hit escape to abort the use of a tool, and then jump back over here, switch your tool to anything, and then back to your rectangle. And that's going to reassign this so that we can draw our shape here from the corner. So we'll try that one more time. Again, accuracy is not super important because we're just kind of playing around here, but we will show you how to adjust this as soon as we're done. We're going to push this through, and we can see really well. We're going to infer point to on edge, and that shape is now complete. So one thing you'll notice though about this new chair is that the legs are a little bit different from each other, and it's easy to see that if we orbit kind of to the bottom. You can see my leg here is a little bit wide compared to some of the other legs. So the way to fix that is to use that inferring. That's that built-in option built into SketchUp. So you're going to push and pull this leg, get it moving, and then you can infer point at the back leg, and that'll make sure that those two legs are perfectly equal. And we can do the same over here. We can push or pull the inside of this leg and infer back to the one in the back. And that way we know that our dimensions are roughly accurate. If we wanted to make sure they were 100% the same, we could switch over to the tape measure, and we could easily just measure, create some guides off of these existing edges to help us to understand where our legs need to be. And you can see this one is pretty close. Yeah, those are pretty accurate. So the last step is very similar to what we did when we did the back of our first chair, and that is to use our 2-point arc. Click once where we want it to start and once where we want it to finish. Flex it up, and then use our push-pull to push and get rid of that piece. So these are two very different methods to create the chair. Remember the additive and the subtractive, but both are really valid. Different people, your brain works differently. So think about what makes sense to you and maybe experiment with both types. Next, we're going to have you find a chair that may be around you and see if you can model that chair in a little more detail compared to just our basic chair. So I hope you enjoyed this, but we'll jump into some new projects here in the future.